Why does Florida suddenly hate science? The oceans are slowly overtaking Florida. Ancient reefs of mollusk and coral off the present-day coasts are dying. Annual extremes in hot and cold, wet and dry, are becoming more pronounced. The science community has investigated, and 99.9% of them agree on the culprit. In the rest of the world, this culprit has a name, but inside Florida, it does not. Or, at least it's not allowed to be spoken. According to a Miami Herald investigation, the State Department of Environmental Protection has, since 2010, had an unwritten policy prohibiting the use of some well-understood phrases for the meteorological phenomena slowly drowning Florida. It's that thing where burning too much fossil fuel puts certain molecules into a certain atmosphere, disrupting a certain planetary ecosystem. You know what we're talking about. We know you know. They know you know. They know we know you know. But are we allowed to talk about you know? Nope, not in Florida. It must not be spoken of, ever. Unless you could maybe type around it? Let's give it a shot. If you look closely at any of Florida's beaches, you're going to see the same peculiar pattern. At Fernandina Beach on the Atlantic coast, high tides have gotten an average of 9 inches higher since 1987. In Pensacola on the Gulf Coast, they've rose 7 inches since 1923. And all the way south, at the tip of Key West, high tides are up 8 inches since 1913. In low, flat Florida, those added few inches can stretch for miles. Almost 2.5 million people in the state live within 4 feet of current high tide marks. And the ocean isn't just creeping on shore, it's seeping in underground, too. Southern Florida is built on bedrock that's porous like a hard sponge. Over time, more water is continuing to seep into Florida's underground aquifers and will continue to do so. Eventually, they'll become undrinkable. Many southern Florida towns are already experiencing this and turning to look at well sites further inland. The thing is, though, before the wells turn salty, the state's southern coastal cities are going to get drowned. Florida uses a complicated system of gravity-drained pipes to flush rainwater out to sea. But with the sea level rise, there's not enough difference in elevation to empty them. In heavy storms, this backflow leads to flooding. Last year, Miami Beach's stormwater system got backed up and flooded. Since then, the city has spent millions of dollars installing pumps to make up for the loss of gravity-powered drainage. A recent study showed that half of southern Florida's drainage capacity would be disabled if just 6 more inches of sea level were to rise, even though this is an almost certain outcome of science published in publicly funded, well-respected, peer-reviewed journals. So what has Florida done to prevent it? Well, under Republican Governor Rick Scott, officials at the Department of Environmental Protection have been ordered not to refer to climate change or global warming in official reports or communications. It's an interesting strategy. Following the example of the ostrich, if we bury our heads in the ground, perhaps this problem will all go away. Of course, if you don't think that's going to work, you might want to write Governor Rick Scott a letter and let him know what you think. Because if somebody doesn't do something, Florida is going to turn into the next Atlantis.